Yeah. Okay, so but another pencil now. Already live. Already live, yeah. It's connecting the link. It has okay. So it was showing that you were going live, but it has it's from somewhere. Oh no, it is. Yeah, 28 people watching.
Say how many people are.
37.
We'll start latest 8:15. Thank you for your patience. So sorry. Should be on. Yeah, there's only one.
Oh, did you mean chat using the banker account? Mine not mine. Okay, yeah. Yes.
在ห้องจำกัดตัวจะ
Is that will set her point when they say
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Hope you don't mind. We'll start with 15.
Sure, should we all sit there?
About 10 minutes.
How many minutes?
Ten.
Okay, let's go there. All right. Let's see. I'm going to start with, I'd like to do. Wow, I know. That's very long.
Testing. There's a lot.
What a no word.
Directors. Just them.
Oh, yes, take one more. Sure, that's a lot. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a habit. Like, what is this? But no, I have read examples. No, and then I told her, I said, it's in the it's in the step. So, that transfers the Oh, it's not discussion. Give questions to be fine, but I need
Like since it's another 4 more minutes, just waiting for. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So sorry we're starting late. But we because we should become here. We should actually just go to the time to share and stuff as well. We will have a place for the people watching online, everyone. Sorry, the screen is too quiet or not moving somebody just feel free to let us know the comments. We'll try and manage the video that's something we will try. So yes, there's a very big number. I know it's not very big screen, but feel free to come visit closer if you like. Do your best. I want to say a big thank you to Acting Academy for hosting us today. Okay, I think Academy is a school, very unique school, looking for same schools, it's quite a different way. But if you want to know more about school, I want to talk to David, lecturer, and other people. So please do. Thank you so much. All right, so we've got a very serious, very difficult topic tonight. I wanted to start off by, of course, doing a research very updated. So they report this is a very difficult topic, especially for people with affected by such things that we try to be sensitive to try to normalize our minds better. That's still of course. So it is something that's always very close to our hearts. So for tonight, we yes, sir. Okay. Sure. That a little bit better? Okay. Please feel free and everybody. So, so what we want to do today is to explore what we can do to prevent future violence. We focus are going to try and avoid a little bit talking extensively about what other people should do. And this is just something that I wanted to keep in mind because I think it's a very emotionally charged subject. And there's a lot of things there are things that are more within our control and there are things that are outside our control. Right? Of course, we can touch a little bit in some of the speakers. I think we'll touch a little bit of what schools should do, what government should do. But I think we might have both really be the focus of our presentation. That there are important questions that I'll make sure that other forums discussing this as well. But we want to focus on what parents can do, what adults can do, it's important. So, and in the Q&A as well, we see how it goes. There's some you can't speak for the government, you can't speak for all the different schools and things like that. But it's what we can do as parents, what we can do as parents. Right? So our focus, I think, most of our presenters are talking about our relationship with children at risk and being in such violence. And whether I'm sure what the backgrounds are, perpetrator or children, you know, So just briefly, I will give a short presentation, a short talk, maybe frame the event. Then Akram will talk a little bit about his own experiences as a young man during development here. I think after that is Dr. Shermaine, she's a psychiatrist, and has worked with UNICEF on policy, mental health policy. Then it will be Gillian, she's a counsellor, and she's also been doing some work with mental kids at SMK BU4. There might be a few who are not so familiar with the difference between a psychiatrist and a counsellor. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who can prescribe medicine and things like that. Counselor usually trained in cognitive psychology and everything. Now, the last speaker will be the Dr. Hartini Zainuddin, one of the most prominent cancer executives in the nation. They both experienced and the most compassionate do the introduction to the yeah, so basically all of us will be focusing a little bit on relationship with children with this. Um, again, there's ways in which you can intervene or maybe change your behavior a little bit when you're trying to prevent people from acting violently. Then also there are ways that we want to try and influence children to make sure they don't become victims of such violence. The part about trying to make sure our kids don't become victims of such violence is a little bit more tricky, a little bit more difficult. It becomes very difficult to protect sometimes, things. So we will try and touch a little bit on that, try to talk about a little bit about warning signs, educating our children about what to do if you come across this kind of people who experience, again, it's a very sensitive topic, but try a little bit of that. But we're also talking how we want to try and stop kids from acting up a little bit in the system. I think a lot of what we're talking about today will have to do with connection, disconnection, where kids feel connected, feel disconnected. I think we've been discussing that quite a bit. Understanding that's quite central theme, right? As we talk about these kind of things, it's part of my just a short contribution to the discussion. I noticed that there are some words I think that are more helpful than some words that are less helpful. So, sometimes we talk about violent, crazy, weirdos, cells, and things like that. I personally find these kind of words sometimes a little bit not so helpful. It creates a lot of space, alienation, which can worsen the problem. So we can see so I think it's more of like collaboration. With the internet. Maybe you can function. If it's more slow and after slow and just tendency to talk too fast. I'll try to the volume is okay, right? We'll try. Thank you. Yeah, so violent, crazy, weirdos, themselves, these are sometimes words that we use when we face such acts of random violence. I also want to maybe talk a little bit, especially about incels. It's kind of a new, rather slightly new word. It's short for involuntary celibates. It's like men who don't give enough attention for women. I don't know, this term has been coming up a lot since the incident and things like that, and there is a whole internet subculture of this kind of thing. But I think a lot of the discussion is also very sort of like, oh, these are terrible people, these are, I mean, the subculture is a dangerous and terrible thing, but I think that when we use that kind of judgmental language, it pushes more people into that zone, right? It becomes when they feel like they are being targeted or they feel that being attacked, it draws them, pushes them further and further into that subculture. Sort of mention that briefly. Right? Sometimes they use words like trouble, disturbed, delusional, slightly better. For me, I find lonely and disconnected to be slightly more useful ways to think about these kind of problems. I just want to talk briefly about reality-based worlds and screen-based worlds versus screen-based worlds, which I think
Sorry, is it better with the camera? It's not too close, right? Then we can move it closer. Okay.
All people like this.
Hopefully that's it.
Okay. So they're turning off the fan. Ah. Okay.
Sit down, sit down.
Maybe.
Okay, actually, it's texting me. And I'm like, thanks.
I would not use me forward, but like.
Noise cancellation on. Something is on.
Wait, no idea. So, to be a little bit clearer, so thank you for your patience. So just to finish up, yeah, so it's something that's a bit difficult for some of us who are older to understand. You know, kids will live their entire world on screens. Right? More and more hours they spend, and more likely this is to be a problem. So something I noticed about screen-based worlds, right? Children can be better than reality. Can be more interesting, more exciting, more affirming, right? Especially if you're a slightly socially awkward child, right? Don't fit in the real world, you don't think you know, go to school or friends who don't quite feel happy, comfortable. It's common to try and treat back into this screen-based world. Not just hours spent. If the child spends more hours on the phone in front of the screen, or whether it's a phone or computer or TV, more than not in front of the screen, it's something to wary of. As I mentioned before, you know, sometimes nowadays parents use screens as babysitters. It's understandable. Everyone's very busy and things like that, but it's very there's long-term effects. So the thing I also noticed about screen-based worlds is that tend to offer a lot of validation information. So in this internet world, there's a lot of kind of communities, subcultures, right? And the kind of things, this kind of culture, right? That the things that we discuss, the things that we talk about, value system can be very, very different and very, very strange and something that's not familiar to us, and not really the way that we want kids to grow up. So there's something to be very, but it tends to give them a sense of validation and affirmation, right? Whatever they are feeling inside, whatever trouble they're feeling, they say, you're absolutely right for feeling this way. This is, and the reason you're feeling this way is ABC. The ABC that they give us to be a bit not the kind of things that most of us want our kids growing up and learning. This is what happens in screen-based ways. And then this thing also, I think, over some of the recent cases becomes an issue. Right? They keep telling you whatever you're feeling, you're not the one wrong. Starting wrong. The world is the one that's gone crazy, right? You are perfect, you are good, you're fine. The world is all terrible. Right? So this is can lead to very dangerous line of thinking, right? Then the extreme ways of going from feeling like a loser to feeling like a winner. If you're in life, you're not good in school, you're not good in sports, you don't have the kind of things that make you feel good about yourself, feel like you're a bit small. There's a lot of ways these online people they find ways to make you think of yourself as successful. So just briefly, there's a lot of debate going on now. Some people say, oh, we should ban smartphones for everyone under 16 and things like that. I don't have any very informed comment on this. I'm not very sure what is the best route. Maybe I just got some comment. I do know, however, that from my view is that generally it is quite difficult to ban things. And then people will tend to find ways to get, if a child has a need that is not met, find a way to meet it, right? You cannot control where they are all the time. But there are different strategies to this, and maybe some of the rest that we can talk a little bit more about. I just wanted to briefly also go into some of the things that again might have come up most recently. Recently, there are two things that came up, right? One is a show, anime manga called Death Note. The other one was involved in mass shootings in US high schools. I am not an expert on these things, but I did a little bit of research. Thought maybe just use this as a brief example of what one can see. So there were quotes from this movie that was apparently this is about a high school student who finds a book one day, writes someone's name in the book, the person will die. So this kid went out and thought, oh, I'm going to cleanse the world of all the morally evil people, and it suddenly become like this godlike, powerful creature who's deciding life and death, who is wrong, who is right. So it just gives us a little bit of an insight into the mind of, maybe the kids they like this idea of that gives them that kind of power, right? And whereas in real life, maybe they feel a little bit powerless, a little small. This ideas of being something supernatural, something big, becomes kind of attractive. Just very quickly, I studied in America, so I follow these cases a little bit. And it's very sad. One good thing about Malaysia is that luckily we don't have a lot of guns. A lot of guns become the thing, right? But something I sort of noticed or reflected on is that once these things started happening, in America, apparently now the biggest cause of death for children is gun violence. It's not cancer, it's not disease. When I first read that, I didn't believe it. I thought there's no way it's true. But it's really true. And I worry that once these things started happening, once you read about this mass shooting in the news, that mass shooting in the news, kind of enters the public consciousness. And people start thinking, oh, this is something that can happen. This is what was most worrying to me about the missing case as well. I think a lot of us are worried. Once kids start thinking, oh, this thing can happen, this thing is a real thing, right? It's very scary and dangerous. So we might be entering a pivotal point. Again, this is semi-related with the gun violence, right? In Australia, there was one mass shooting after massacre. After that, the Australian government just said, oh, we're going to ban all the guns, we're going to buy back all the guns. And there's been a drastic reduction and they don't have the gun problem, right? So then we went down one part. Whereas in America, they didn't do these things, and these things become more and more frequent. So I'm just wondering whether Malaysia will make an important point, right? Whether this becomes the first of many cases, or the US model, or a bit more like Australia model, where we take important steps and become less and less cases. So just briefly, I might think of this as the battle for our children's emotional real estate. Kids have all kinds of emotions, they go into all kinds of things, right? Either they find a way to deal with it with us in the real world, they find a way to deal with it in screen-based worlds. So whether which way they go, then I think it comes down to us. Somebody wanted me to share this code a little bit, so I think I always do that. Quickly. Parenting is 2% what you say and 98% what you do. How you carry yourself, how you react, how you balance yourself against the pressures of reality. This is what a child watches and learns from. It's a quote that I thought was useful to think about. Kids do as we do and not as we say. And just very briefly towards the end, I think the risk that we're looking at is, children being isolated, alienated, turning to screen-based realities and further radicalization, normalization of mass violence into public consciousness. So when we look at risk mitigation, I think it basically comes down to what our children are feeling and how we manage, how we teach them how to react to those feelings. So I think in terms of risk mitigation, these are the kinds of things that maybe we should be thinking about how to make them feel from disconnected, connected, isolated to supported, from lonely to comforted, angry to calm, frustrated to understood. Maybe I'll just briefly end with Star Wars. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. We want to reduce the suffering, we try and reduce the hate, we try and reduce the anger, try and reduce the fear and this kind of things. Okay, I think I will stop there for now. Sorry, it was a bit of a strange moderator-speaker combination. And we'll go on to the next speaker. And at the end, of course, I'll be happy to have a dialogue, conversation. Sure. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. So our next speaker is Akram Yusof, old friend. He's a community activist. A few of us are in this whole WhatsApp group of CSO, civil society people. And in the aftermath of the case, Akram was sharing a little bit about his own childhood and his own experiences with these kind of things. And so I thought it was very moving and very pertinent. So just pass it to him. Thank you so much.
So, hi everyone. You can hear me well? So first of all, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Akram. Currently working in corporate. I'm also a leader in the community, youth community, as well as here and there, I'm a youth activist in a sense for certain issues that I feel very strongly towards. And this particular issue really resonated with me. Few reasons. One is that I think all of you might have heard or seen the series known as Adolescence. Right. When I first saw it, I was deeply struck. Right, struck chord in me because when I watched that series, I really felt like I was that person as well. Right, and same thing happened when I saw this incident. As a young person, I look back into my younger days. That could have easily been me. And why I say so is because yes, there are words like incel, uh, weird, etc. But back in our day, we call them nerds, we call them geeks, and we call the other people, the cool people, the jocks, right? So the terms may have changed, but the feeling of being isolated or being segregated from others or viewed as different and weird is still there. Those emotions never changed. Why did they get maybe some of us feel, say worse nowadays? Perhaps it's because of certain influences as well that has been amplifying those feelings and emotions. When I was younger, right, my parents were divorced. My mom was someone who felt that one way to teach a child is through discipline, right? And when I go to school as well, I was kind of annoying, a person who likes to ask a lot of questions. And so, as kids who do not know how to deal with the situation, they would just call me as weird, just annoying, and I would often be left alone, right? I didn't have that many friends. And growing up, um, as I go through primary school, as I go through high school, it's almost similar. I think in high school, then only I found people who has the same hobbies as me, or I was able to connect with them. And one of those ways was actually through the street gaming. The time PlayStation 1 just came out, I remember I had 3 months of my life just staying at home and playing PlayStation. Because that was how I could feel a bit more empowered, a bit of how my life can be under control, right? Under my control. Because I was quite a violent kid as well. I remember when I was younger, anyone who made fun of my mom, made fun of me, I would get into a fist fight. There were even times when I got a skipping rope and tried to strangle people as well, right? It's just that I didn't go to that, extent, but I could have. And at the time, it wasn't thinking about what the consequences were. It was just thinking about these are strong emotions that I had within me. And I had to get them out. I had to show to people that I'm not someone you just mess with, right? Because I'm a small person and people can bully me and the world is unfair. I had to make my mark. And there's no other way that I could show that aside from physical violence. But I was lucky that I didn't have guidance, had people to stop me. But also I had strong morality because I have to say that influences of film and TV at the time were probably much better than they was today. Right? I of course shows that I watched was like Barney, Power Rangers, where good versus evil, you feel like you have to be a superhero, right? But today's consumption of media is completely different. Even when I watch it as well, sometimes I appreciate them. But the themes that you have there can be quite, how to say, it takes a lot of thought. And if you don't have enough experiences, you can take it literally. And that's where it gets very dangerous. So I feel that what happens today is with social media and maybe a lot of our kids also spending a lot of time on it. I'm not saying that it's something that should have. It's already there even from the beginning. People find an outlet to go to try and connect. It's just a matter of how do we connect. Do we have the right morality and the right values since young to be able to guide us as kids as well? Right? I consume all of this, but I think back then the amount of media is not like today. I watch TikTok, I watch Instagram, I do consume content from say people like Andrew Tate, like Jordan Peterson as well. Some of the things that they say sounds right. Some of it, because I'm an adult, I know what is misogynist, what is not. Right? And when you're a kid who feels isolated, and one of those, what incels mean is actually involuntary celibate. That means nobody wants to be with you. No girl ever wants to sleep with you. You will never get married. You will never have a connection in your life. And as a kid who's already isolated, being called that makes you feel even worse. You feel angry. Why does the world punish me just because I'm a bit different? Right? The world seems so unfair. And so I want to teach these people a lesson in a way. Because the social media out there also shows, like you're gonna be strong, you're gonna show that you're powerful, you're gonna show that you're dominant. So this kind of messaging is what affects kids to make these kind of moves sometimes. And the thing is that there's all these sort of examples out there, but the good examples, they're hard to find. But for social media today, and I look through, the examples of people showing kindness, examples of people who are doing good, they're very few. I can find very, very little of it. And even if you look at comments today on anything, whether it be political, be it on news, you find road rage. You find people fighting or beating up another person. You find people having racist comments, right? I just posted up, for example, on Facebook about how I feel like it's weird that people are asking for capital punishment for a kid. Just think about it, right? And a lot of comments that I got back, I wish it happened to your kid. I'm not married, I don't have kids. But that was the first thing that Edison said to me, right? The first thing they think about is that, what if it happens to your kid? I hope that your kid also gets something like that, right? Then you know how it feels like. I'm like, you would wish upon a stranger? That's the first thing you think about? And these are adults who are making these comments. And so as a kid who's, spends their time on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and reads all these comments, what's the first thing they're going to think? This is the world. If I don't make my mark into the world, I don't show my dominance, I'm the one who's going to be eaten up alive later on. And as a kid today, the amount of burden and responsibilities that they feel they have, because I had to be successful, I need to have a Lamborghini when I grow up, because that's the definition of success that social media has, or people out there has shown. Then there's a lot of pressure on a kid today. There are a lot of people not sure. And if you were to talk about it to parents and to adults, they don't understand because we speak different language. And that's the first issue, right? That the language that kids speak today, the language that we speak, are very different. But actually mean the same thing. Like I said, back then we call them geeks, we call them nerds, right? Today they call them incels. It's just a different term. But they mean the same thing. They feel the same way, right? I'm not sure if any of you in school when we were younger, you have felt the same, but that's exactly what your kids are actually, or most kids are now facing. They feel isolated. They don't know who to talk to. And especially when I was gaming when I was younger, there are single player games where you have to overcome obstacles for you to win something. But today, when you play online, the words that come out is like, oh, you can't do this, you're a loser, you're a noob, right? People immediately just bash each other because there's a culture online, right? The culture online is that, look, I'll just say whatever I want, I'll say bad things, violent things to you, and I can get away with it. And so the question I would like to put forth is that how can we as adults also think about how we also act online? Because in the end, that's a representation of how society is. We ask what's the issue here. I think one way is society where we all put online as well. So that's a bit of a story about me. And I think people see me today, they don't think that I had the kind of past.
Absolutely not. No.
But it's a fact, it happened to me. When I got to high school, I learned consequence, right? I got called to the principal's office a lot. And my mom told me that don't get into fights anymore. In high school, it's different, it's serious. You will get kicked out. and you get kicked out, your family name is ruined, your life will be ruined. And that image stuck to me because I don't want to live a bad life. I want to have a good life. I want to go travel and there's aspirations and ambitions too, right? And so that stopped me from acting the way I did in primary school. But I hope kids today also have, I don't know if they have that. Yeah. I don't know. Because even my own brother, who's a Gen Z as well, I'm still struggling to communicate with him, right? It's not an easy thing. And I'm still learning too. I'm trying to figure out what's his ambition he's all about as well. I don't know. But that's something I hope we can discuss today and try to figure it out. So there's a little bit, I hope, I would like to today.
Thank you very much, Akram. Again, this is precisely why I thought it was very valuable to have this kind of sharing. I hope maybe I should elaborate this a little bit more, right? Because it's exactly kind of like this is the kind of crossroads that I think is most important for us, right? So that if there's a kid going down the road, right, you can end up, like kid becoming very well adjusted, very good contributing member of society, adult, or you can go to really the other extreme, which is kind of what we saw maybe, right? So really what I've been thinking about the most is how do we kind of nudge people into choosing the right road. You talked about resorting to fist fights every time, strangle people with skipping rope, But then somehow you sort of like balik the pangkuan jalan and then come back to the right path. So maybe you can just tell a little bit more about what the transformation. I mean, you spoke a little bit about it when I was in high school, but I think please you talk about the role model, maybe how adults were able to positively influence you and what kind of advice you would give to people who want to try and bring people back away from that kind of like rage and violence to the
So I think one thing for me which I felt I didn't realize until later on that helped a lot was actually martial arts. So I did karate and also taekwondo. And the concept of martial arts is teaching you how to fight, yes. It's teaching you how to be stronger, yes. But the concept of martial arts is that you gain strength not to hurt others, but to protect others, right? And I think that was something that I learned when I was younger. I think about 5, 6 years old, right? The idea, the concept stuck with me because the shows that I watched, right, the movies that I watched was all about that. It's all about if you ever gain strength, you ever gain power, it's not about to punish other people, it's to protect others, right? And I think today we're very much in a very self-serving world. If you get power, it's to serve yourself first. That's what's happening, or how we all probably feel when we look into life, when you look into, for example, politics, or that's how we think. And that's how we put out into the world. That's what kids consume and see. And then that's how they believe the world is. So I also need to be that way. But in my view, I think that was what really stuck to me, was that I learned martial arts not to beat someone else up, but to be able to protect others. So I think moral value, I think that was very, very important. I'm glad my parents, when I was younger, also instilled that in me when I was.
Thank you very much. So yeah, this idea of instilling ideas of mobility, positive way to channel the kind of energy, anger,
Perspective, right? I can have two different perspectives. I can say hello, one word, but depending on how you feel, you'll see my hello differently. And same thing, depending how I feel, I could translate the word hello very differently, like hello or hello, right? Tone matters. And I think that's like perspective, being able to teach kids that there's that good perspective as well. It's different perspective.
I think all of us, experience anger, sometimes get violent urges and things like that. But how can we channel it? How can we push it towards something for the service of others, to protect others, to get a kind of pride for being able to protect others as well, like sense of self-worth and well-being. Thank you very much, Akram. It's really very helpful. Okay, so now the man have talked about all the problems, help to resolve the problems. I'll rehash the resume each time. Okay. So Dr. Shermaine, psychiatrist training. Did about 4 years with the minister recently, working on mental health policy and things like that. So okay, just speak loudly and go for it. Thank you.
Thank you for the time. Can you hear me well? Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. So, as what Nat has introduced me, I'm a psychiatrist. Yeah, I work very closely with the authorities, with schools, with governments, with UN agencies for policy. But the thing is, today I'm here not as the one who tell who to do what, not to tell what the authority or how the policy should look like to create a safety for children. And I'm very grateful. You buy a oven, you buy a washing machine, you always read the manual before you operate it. But when the baby comes to this world, we don't have it. And we have to figure out how to parent it. And a lot of us will try to model what we have been taught by our parents, either consciously or subconsciously. We didn't know what to do. Probably our parents will come and give us some instructions, or you should have done this, you should have done that. But the thing is, whether all those advices, whether all those modeling still applicable today. With what I'm growing up, with what our children are growing up today. My own children, my own child, I have an elder daughter and the youngest. She just turned into teenager. When she used to be very happy child, happy go lucky, and everything seems to be quite okay. She's a typical developmental child, so it's quite okay. So we worry a lot for our atypical developing child, the younger child, and the son was some amount of mistake, a lot of developmental milestone delay. Even as an expert myself, I find it very challenging with all the resources. So looking back, I felt I have neglected my elder daughter a little bit. So when she turned teenager, suddenly it's like an overnight change. Suddenly she become a different person to me. It's like a stranger. She became very authoritative. She very rebellious. She doesn't want to talk to me. She used to share all her daily ups and downs with me every night before she goes to bed. Suddenly, just overnight, just with a snap of finger, she just shut down, slammed the door, and not talking to me anymore. That was that early stage, right? So then she started to act up. She started to go into screen. We exposed her screen because I believe in empowering them, give them enough guidance to know what is right and what is wrong, rather than banning the whole screen altogether. Because even if we don't expose them at home, they will be exposed somewhere out there. And if we don't equip them with enough capacity to understand what is right and wrong at home, and then when they go out there, once they are exposed, how are they going to differentiate what is right? So that is my belief. And that's why I didn't ban totally from screen, but I will put on parenting control every day. And yet she managed to find all kinds of ways to access different kind of contents. And yeah, it was really, really difficult, very tough time to communicate. My husband and I went through really a lot to understand what's going on. Even though both of us are professional, both of us understand the adolescent brain development. We understand the strong emotions among child, and yet we are facing the challenge. So I figured out later on how we managed to get a bit closer. I'm still working on it. Invest a little bit more time. It's just not quality. I used to juggle a lot with work. Come back home, you feel very tired, you feel very stressed. It's just so hard for you to really spend enough time with them. So I figured actually you just need to spend time. Just have to make time, no matter what, to 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 be there when they have strong emotions. They are very confused. They don't know what kind of thing they are going through. Just there. You don't need to talk. Just be present and tell them. Always leave the rooms open. If let's say you ask them to share about their day, they did not want to share. This is fine, but I'm always here if anything's happen. Always leave the door open just by simple sentence like that, and it works. To me, it works. To me, it works that way. Just like saying, I will be there when things happen. You just need to let me know. And one day she came back and she told me she faced out bullies in school. She was bullied. And yeah, I figure as the mother, I have to protect my child. So I went to the school and talked to the teachers and talked to the parents, just communicate very peacefully. And it's very easy. It's not like physical bullies or just verbal bullying. Not just verbal bullying, any kinds of bullies or violence, right? So we managed to communicate through this, and we all the parents, I was very lucky, I faced very sensible parents. So we managed to talk things through and say we want to create a safer school for our children and we work towards it and communicate with our child. So that things just died off. But the thing is, it came back to me, just a small actions like that, the child feels safe. The child, she suddenly opened up again. She came to me for help. She came to me and talked to me, and we spend time every night again. She wants me to put her to sleep, even though she's in India. It's just, I feel it's the time, and she used to like to read a lot, and because of work, sometimes I didn't think of instead I thought we don't have enough physical activity, so I always bring them to park, but she doesn't really enjoy park, she enjoys reading. So we changed some strategies and bring her to bookstores, library. I still trying to spend more time with her, like every now and then. And I saw she changed, she suddenly she can have time to get away from screen. But this is not all. I would say it's not a bed of roses. It's always there are ups and down time. It's still very challenging. It's still not and I also want to normalize help seeking. In sometimes a lot of people might think as a psychiatrist, your child, why do you need to send your child for therapies? I feel at home I'm a mother. I can only be a mother, and I'm not expected to be a therapist or a psychiatrist. I still send her for professional help when there's a so this is some things that I would like to share. Even as an expert, we do feel challenge. What more of the parents out there? And you see today the screens and all that, the contents that we can access. I feel half of the time it's not just because English is not my native language. Sometimes when I communicate with my doctor, I feel half of the time I don't understand what she's talking about. I have to look up in the Google for a lot of words. For example, now they talk a lot about 6-7. What is it? And was like, I asked her to explain to me, and she said, stay curious. You will face this kind of all kinds of new words coming out, new tag words, and I have to really sit down and look up to understand what she's talking about. and there's no meaning to it, apparently. There's no meaning to 6-7, but they are talking about it so often, so frequently. This, so we have to admit that we are a lot. Sometimes when we communicate with parents come back and tell me and say, why I don't understand why adolescents keep saying they have a lot of stress, emotional issues. They don't understand because we provide everything for them. There should be great food. They have so much, this is the common narrative that we hear every day. And yet, but I always put them into perspective. Look here, back then when we grew up, we don't have internet, we don't have social media, we don't have all this digital content that's easily accessible to. And all these are our world itself. Our world is what we can see last time, right? Is what you can see is your world. That's all. The probably you can see if you have very good eyesight, you can see 1 kilometer. That's all you can see. That's your world, right? The 1 kilometer diameter. But nowadays it's not. The world, the whole wide world is out there. And so when you are exposed to this kind of network, that is the source of stress. You feel overwhelmed with information. And you don't have, and your brain is still developing. They are at the stage that don't have the capacity to understand how to filter the content. And even as a parent myself, I feel when I go through their content, I have difficulty to filter as well. I feel it's overwhelming for me. So how much and what can we do as a parent? We have to keep investing time. It's not easy. Last time we say to raise the child, you need a village. But nowadays, our family are very individualistic. It's all very nuclear family. Both parents have to go out and work to make ends meet. And who are your support? Can we build a nurturing community? Everybody come together and raise our children together. Is that something that we can do? I always wonder. So I think I will put all these questions on the table today that we got. I'll put it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shermaine. It's been very helpful to have some personal sharing, as a mother and just as a country. It is without struggle. Okay, it's a bit scattered, but we'll go to Gillian. Is that okay? Okay, so Ms. Gillian Chong is a counselor, trained counselor, and she also did some work working with the students at SMK BU4, the aftermath of the incident. So she's sharing some as well. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to take this slide to you. So just by the way, just in case you want to contact any of us, emails are here and some phone numbers.
Because I just recovered my voice 2 days ago. It was actually completely gone. I can, but I think my yours. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Yeah, hi everyone. Yes, I'm a licensed and registered counselor. I also have an NGO, and my NGO that I founded 15 years ago works with abuse and at-risk youth. So I really there was a comment online, and so I really want to give out a shout out. It was such a good question because he asked, what about the kids that fall under the gap? And those would be my kids most of the time because my youth are the ones who, besides the abuse, usually have multiple traumas. And at risk, they have a lot of, they come from families that are in poverty, violence, a lot of social issues, drugs, in prison. Yeah, so those are my youths. Okay, so out of all of them, I think mine is a technical talk. So it is true. What happened was I was asked with a couple of other counselors to go into a group of students who are from BU4 to give them crisis counseling. So crisis counseling is a little bit difficult, a little bit different from normal counseling. It is actually when there is an incident, like the one that just happened, something which is very shocking, and they asked us to come in and do counseling with them. Now, what I was very interested in, this is a bit small for you all, I know. Please, if you need the slides, just let us know. We will send it to you. Give us the email address. But what I was very shocked at is that all the symptoms, and these are symptoms that I wrote myself using my notes, my counseling notes, are the symptoms that the students have. And these are symptoms that I never thought I would see in Malaysia. These are literally symptoms that if you imagine this gun violence in the US, these are exactly the symptoms that you're going to see. You know, the youths are having nightmares, they cannot sleep, they are so afraid that somebody will come to their house and do the same thing. They have so many questions. And that's, I think, basically what I really want to say. And I really thank Dr. Shermaine because I think she basically said most of what I was going to share today.
So maybe, sorry, since they probably can't see, would you like to give some of the things from the
Okay. Yeah. So what they were sharing is, they were feeling numb. They had no guilt. So guilt, why? Guilt, why didn't I do something to save the girl? Guilt, why didn't it happen to me? Why was it last people? And I understand that she's so mindful of from the next session. Not anger, of course. Scared. They are so scared. They are scared to go back to school. They are scared to go to the toilet, which I really hope will be closed down because they are terrified of the toilet. Yeah. They don't want to do the things that they used to enjoy. Every day they just like, I don't want to do anything. I just don't feel like doing anything. All the parents they told me is that they just want to have a lot of memories. They're experiencing a lot of unconscious your body is responding. So they literally shook. They told me that they shook when the whole thing was happening. I mean, when they saw, and again, this is population, I can't tell you what they saw, but when they saw, they were shaking. So even now, they're at home, they're safe, but they're still shaking. Yeah, so these are all lasting effects that, again, I don't expect, I'm sure Dr. Hartini has seen this in the US and himself. I never expected to see this among children in Malaysia. So, but I'd like to jump to what can parents do, because this is something that I thought was really, really important. Because when I talk to them, and when I talk to my youth, so I talked to my youth on Sunday, and I said, guys, let me ask you all a little bit about this. And I said, actually, do you all want adults to talk to you? And surprisingly for my youth, they said, yes, I really wish somebody will talk to us because nobody is talking to us about this. We're only talking to our friends. And what we noticed was happening, all the counselors were noticing, you talk to your friend talk to you are both scaring each other. Because you see things from a teenage perspective, and you see things from a very, I just went through the same experience, you went through the same experience. We are just making the fear worse. Okay, so what can parents do? Number one, really, really encourage everybody to stay very calm and very grounded themselves. Why? Because they will pick up if you are scared. So they will also feel scared. So stay calm. Right? Next, observe your child. So during this time, no matter which school your child goes to, all teenagers right now, even the children, are affected by this. Take a look at them and see how they are doing. And be patient, why? Because you may find that they are angry, still angry, and then you're like, oh, suddenly scold me one for no reason. Suddenly they're crying for no reason. They may appear to be rude. They may appear to, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Please be patient because everybody's going through the same. You all felt the same, right? When you heard about what the incident happened, everybody was very upset. So are the youth, and they don't know how to express it. Next. Initiate a conversation with the child. So you be the first one to talk to your child. And I like to raise something with phone down. Put down your phone and really have a proper talk with the child. A talk in which you listen more than you talk. Yeah, listen to them. What are the things that are going through their mind? What are the things that they are feeling? What are they scared about? All right. Tell them you can say anything you want. It's perfectly fine. I will listen. It's okay if you don't feel okay. All right, give them space. Reassure them. All right. So one thing that they were afraid of was simple things like, what if this happens to me? So what I told them, I know it sounds ridiculous, like this is true for you. I told them that I said, since my data never got such thing happen one. So highly unlucky for the next 1 year, something will happen like this. It sounds stupid, but it was reassuring them. Yeah, for true. Okay, so reassure them. You don't know how scared your kids are right now. Okay, share what school is made to keep them safe. I know we're all laughing, we're like, I know so stupid one, I don't have member detector. It doesn't matter. It makes them feel like, oh, okay, something is being done. Right now, they don't want to go back to school. Because to them, it's like, what if it happens to me by somebody else? And they had very legit question. They're like, but I saw in music around to say that just want you know. I was like, so you're asking questions, what if it happens by somebody else in my school? Got other people also like that one, what if it happens to me? It's legit, right? Okay, so please reassure the children. Living media. What do I mean? And this is also for adults. Try don't look at newspapers so much. Don't look at social media so much because it is upsetting everybody, including your kids. If you can, try to encourage them not to look so much at what people are talking about these days. Look at other things. Okay? Try not to talk with your friends when they're around. And I agree with Dr. Shermaine. If you see your children are not okay, please get help. Please, there is no reason to be shy of getting help. Get them to speak with someone. It doesn't mean your child is going to talk to somebody for 20 sessions. No, it can be just one session for them to just talk out whatever they're scared of. Any questions? I'm so not used to just talking any question. No? Okay. All right, I'm going to go through this very quickly because Dr. Hartini will kill me for this time. But these are the children that they say have a higher tendency to become somebody who will cause violence in schools. And that's why I said Dr. Hartini is very upset. All right. So there are a few things to watch out for. We wanted to share with you all things to watch out for. These are a few things to watch out for, okay? So if my child is exposed to violence, whether it's okay, so children who like to do a lot of online gaming, nowadays it's really very gross and very, very violent, a lot of blood, there's even rape online. Children who are exposed to that. Children who are exposed to abuse and violence in the neighborhood, your area is not safe, you see a lot of gun violence. I give you an example. My youth told me, sister, I got seen arm chop off because it happens in the areas in the front. Yeah. If they are the kid who has been bullied in the past and it was quite bad bullying, I have chance. Okay. If they're the kid that people don't want to friend, so the kid that always sit alone, don't really talk to people, always on your friend's side. Right? If they're the kind of kid who doesn't really respect authority, so to them it's like, higher nonsense, teachers are whatever, police are rubbish, I need to follow this, does not apply to me. Okay? Kids who have very high emotional distress. So kids who feel like life is hopeless. Okay? Kids who are very angry. Kids who are very emotionally upset. Right? Children who they have difficulty in controlling their behavior. Simply I will do whatever I like. I don't care. Right? Children who are on drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, I think this one, you don't understand substance abuse. It's fine. All right. Children who are doing this. So children who are doing the things that they're not supposed to do out there. And this last one, Dr. Hartini will flip up. Supposedly the children who don't have such good grades. Okay, before you all are like, what? This was actually research. This was actually stuff that I was like collecting from a number of research papers. Calm down. So, very importantly, how can we prevent this happening again? Number one, in every single research paper that I read was parent-child. You, the parent, is the most important thing in preventing this from happening. Communicating with your children. The research shows that if your children are able to talk to you about their problems, much less likelihood that this will happen. They won't be there. Okay? Then the other thing is get them to have people like Dr. Shermaine said, people in the community, other adults who will care for them. Okay? Friends in school who are good friends. Right? Get them to participate in activities. All right, religion can be one of them if that is the kind of thing that you like. Behavior and academic achievement, and get mental health services. It's perfectly fine for your child to see a counselor. Shall I pass it to you? Yeah, sure.
So thank you, Gillian, that's very insightful. It's good concern, especially what you're saying about kids wanting adults to talk to them about these things.
Yeah.
It makes a very big difference, just being able to talk about what they're experiencing and not the therapist or something like that, and really about speaking to you or just in therapy when you like just being able to name your feelings and to put labels on words and to describe it to experiencing and have a very calming sorry, just now after Dr. Levine finished speaking, my brain turned off for a little while. Turned back on a little bit. So I wanted to just point out that you mentioned about spending time with students and just having the FaceTime and letting them know that you are there for them. Even when they barajo, they don't really want to spend time with you, and they're not able to
every day I want finish things. After one month, they will come back. So it's always good to keep the door open. Wherever we go. So thank you both again. Okay, so there are some questions online. If you don't mind, we'll wait to the end. So that we'll be happy to somebody will read out those questions. Yeah. So right. So now we go to Hartini Zainuddin again. Before in civil society,
Yeah.
she knows everybody. Everybody knows her.
That's not true. Use the microphone.
So just as a quick introduction, she's done. I've known Dr. Kiki for a long time, right? And we worked together during COVID times and all that, right? And she'll tell me about how the phone will be ringing off the hook, right? So maybe my voice is open, but this is okay. She used to tell me about how people will be messaging her constantly, calling her constantly. Just now, if you just very quickly, it's a phone number. Ask just now, like, oh, who's willing to put a phone number? Dr. King is like, of course. She gives the phone number to everybody. So really, like random poor people, how else to put it? It's not politically correct, but that's really what it is, right? So we keep texting and keep calling, right? And then she doesn't have the kind of like, oh, don't give my number, there's always people asking her for help. This person I've seen the work the hardest like help kids and local people everywhere. So like attention introduction is Dr. King.
Thank you, Nat, for the introduction. And it was, I think, really eye-opening to listen to my fellow panelists looking at from different points of view. I'm not going to argue with you. I've got different perspectives and different points of view what's happening. But the first thing I noticed as I sat here was the fact that everyone is an adult. And we're talking about children in school. And there's not a single child here who's giving their perspective, which for me in itself is very telling, because the most important person who's actually in school aren't here. They're not here. Nobody, no child is here. We're talking about them, which drives the point home, which is something that my daughter, who's 17, said to me 2 days ago, which is, it is the funniest thing ever. She didn't mean funny at all. That you, mommy, who's a baby boomer, because so the 50, who's not been in school for 50 years, is advising millennials who and listening to millennials who are screaming about corporal punishment and caning and metal detectors, and telling the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha what to do when none of you are in school. You don't know what we go through, you don't know what we see, you don't know how we feel, and you definitely don't talk to us or with us, we talk at us, which is never going to work, we're never going to listen. And you know what? She has a point, because I asked other students what they thought. And I actually spoke to student representatives from around the country now, who actually sit in student councils, and asked them, I said, if you had a wish about what is going on, and it's not just about the stabbing, we're talking about the gang rapes, the kids, we're talking about CSAM, child pornography, etc. and stuff. We're talking about a lot of things that are going on. We're talking about bullying. So violence is just not about what physically happens to a student or to a kid. It's also what they're doing, how they're talking, trash talking, the not speaking proper sentences. I'm an English teacher. So, the fact that, children somehow not seem to speak grammatically or write grammatically correctly online, it bothers me, but apparently it's their words. The fact that they know and they have grown up, this is the first generation and first community that has grown up on the internet. None of us are young. None. You came in halfway, I came in not at all. It stayed in my life. And the children actually grew up on the internet. They speak and learn and live a completely different life. Social media is one they never switch on. Never switch on. They never get time off because their friends in school continue to be their friends online. They make new friends online, which we never did, right? They have the internet for that. They have groups, they have chat groups. They don't need us. You talked about the fact, Dr. Sue, the first thing you notice Is your child closes the door? Do you know that that is the first thing every parent of a teenager says? The first thing they do when you know they're going to start disconnecting is shut that door. You're out. You're completely out. And we don't talk to them. We don't talk to them. We don't talk with them. We don't ask them. We don't. So we're busy, right? We all have to work. Lots of us are single mothers. Lots of us, in the space that we work, the space that I work, most of them don't have children. I don't have parents. But there is no community support. I said, by the way, I just, as a disclaimer, I've just been asked to be on the Ministry of Education Task Force on child safety. Nothing's happened yet. I have been asking, I just Meta, MCMC area, all the groups. So, I've been asked to give feedback and stuff. And I will tell you, right now, out there, in the space that we're in, the adults are panicking. And this is what the children see, exactly to your point. The children are seeing all the adults panicking, all the decision makers panicking, all the politicians panicking, everyone's having this prescription of what to do, and no one is asked them. How crazy is that? No one is asked them. So I said, all right, no, that's just not enough. But I noticed this, right? So I said, tell you what, kids, why don't you talk to your kids about recommendations which they did, which I'm sorry I cannot share, because it goes to them. But these 15, 16, 17-year-olds from government schools and boarding schools came up with a list of recommendations that are smarter, wiser, and more relevant to how they want to address the issue and how they want to be a part of the solution. They have to have a voice at the table to be able to make those decisions, not us. We think as parents, or as an adult, we have a say based on our experiences of how school should be. Well, guess what? We're not at school anymore. We are outdated. So why, if because they cannot control, and I totally agree, they cannot control their emotions, they are confused, the hormones are raging, they have no one to do, there's the silos, there's the feelings of isolation, there's the needing to be liked, right? The culture in schools nowadays is not education and learning in itself. The idea is who is the most popular, which by the way is not a new concept, but how many likes, how many followers do you have? It is about having those community chat online, on Instagram, on stories. Do you know how they communicate? They don't just talk on their phone. I'm like, you want to take away their phones? They've got laptops with WhatsApp chat rooms and they don't. You can take off. They have iPads. You take away their phone? Go ahead. That's what my daughter-in-law say. Go ahead, take our phones. You've got laptops and iPads and stuff. You can't take that away because we need it for homework. You are going to stay up and watch them 24 hours a day? That's crazy. I used to work in New York, right? And I worked in the lowest performing schools with the lowest performing kids who were, for all intents and purposes, in gangs in the 90s. Let me tell you something. You create, and I do say this, and that's why I wrote a letter to the Home Minister. You create a community where you have metal detectors and gun control and checkpoints and surprise things and taking away phones. That's right. You create a community where you assume children are the criminals. You're creating criminals. You have already marked and said, this is who you are. You're bad. So we're going to have more bad kids. That's exactly what's going to happen. You create, you manifest, you say, that's what the children are going to do. So for God's sake, stop it. Right? We don't need metal detectors. We don't need gun control. It's not gun control. You want to talk about stuff? Okay, someone asked me, a journalist asked me, so what do you do about the fact that a child can buy a knife online? I'm like, well, that you can control. Talk to Shopee, talk to all the different, online shopping things and say, can you check when you have your camera or facial recognition or whatever it is to make sure, and IC to make sure you need to be over 18 to be able to buy a knife. That you can do, right? We can do lots of other things. I don't know why we can't do that. We can talk to those children. You want to do, it's funny, I was at this Changi event over the weekend where you know, everybody you just walk in and like you don't even have to register to get into an event now. Just show your face. Yeah, I see you. They already know who you are. Just show your face and you walk in. Why can't they do that with children? I mean, or with people, just to make sure to control and be able to come up with that screening process to be able to understand what's right. You know, there are words that you know, we make met 2 days ago. There are words you can use that trigger off alarms. I'm going to say that if you buy certain things and that those elements help you make a bomb, you're going to get them substitutes. No. So there's so many different ways of being able to do this, right? So that's what the government can do. There's a lot of red tape, so that's going to take a while. What can parents do? It's not talk to your child, it's talk with your child. It is sitting down. It's very simple. Start your own neighborhood, represent the community centers, so you can get the kids together on the weekends, have block parties. I know it's not very 90s, but have block parties or something where your kids can all get together. You can have board game nights with the kids. You can sit and do paintings. You can paint the neighborhood. You can do different things so you get them off the screen. But the whole idea behind it, whatever the reasons in it's fun. So get them out because I will tell you most of our kids have like by 20, they're not on some and they're in capital. So you know what? I pull them off the internet, help them with their vitamin D deficiency and get them out in the sun and get them to do different things, you know, that you do as parents, as in the community, you can start little community task forces. What it would mean. But get your kids in the neighborhood together so that you build a safe space for children to talk to one another, we will do that, and talk with you, they do that, and then we can do things that we do best, makan and talk. Why can't we do that? Even if it's not every weekend, once a month, get the group together, right? You can do it from house to house like old folk region, my region, Tupperware parties, right? You can say, you know what, this week, once a month, I'm going to do it. This doesn't sound my neighbor, right? We all put together. Now, do some stuff together, right? We can do different things together. The idea is that you start little community centers to be able to create that safe space so everybody gets together. I'll tell you this. You go into schools now, and I'm not saying you because you don't have to ask the questions. You go into schools now and you ask the children in the classroom, really teach them in school what's wrong with your school and how can you improve it better. They're going to lie to you. Because you know what? There are consequences if they tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you. Schools are not safe spaces in terms of what they say. Schools are not safe spaces and violent because there is punishment and consequences if you say something that doesn't conform to what the school environment wants. So those aren't safe spaces. If you want to create safe schools and safe spaces, create safe spaces where children can say what they want, they are listened to, they are heard and not judged. You want the truth because I will tell you this, children will tell you the truth. They will, if they know you're not going to punish them. They will tell you what is wrong. If you listen and if you give them that space to say it. The problem is, we don't want to know the truth. The problem is, the government doesn't want to hear the truth. And because it's not kosher, because it's not accepted. You want to fix a problem. If you have a headache, you go to the doctor and say, give me a Panadol or whatever it is, right? Use acupuncture, etc. The problem is we're hiding on the symptoms. We're not listening to the symptoms. We're not listening to the right patient. We're talking to the parent and not the patient. And so nothing gets solved. So you know what? This violence in school that you're seeing, I'm sorry, it's going to happen again. It is happening every week. There are copycats. There are gang rapes in schools. Almost something that it wasn't the first time. It's going to continue. This didn't happen last week and last month. This happened 10 years ago. We just didn't know about it. We know about it now because it's on the internet. If there is no internet, we wouldn't find out. So it is great to repeat itself. We are doing interventions now to address the issue. We are not doing prevention work and getting to the root causes to address the issue. So what kind of solutions are you coming up with? There are no solutions. I think what Akram said is so true about that feeling of validation, of wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard. This is why social media is so important. You think kids who grow up with phones and with social media is going to give you their phone? You try taking away a phone from a 12-year-old. You want to take away a phone from a 15-year-old, I will tell you they'll buy another phone. Not only that, they'll hide it from you. It's going to be 100 times worse. I know because the kids are telling me, oh, you follow us, ID, that's not my part. I changed other accounts, you know. Yes. And the two other accounts, you are a 30-year-old. I'm trying to take the phone away from you. It's not going to happen. And the kids are bigger than me. I can't even jump that high. It's not happening. You want bad phones, they're going to get other phones. You've just driven them underground. These are not solutions. These are not solutions. It's to make the adult feel better. You want to do caning, it's going to make the adult who hits you feel better for 5 minutes a child. That's nothing to them. They don't feel anything. It's already desensitized. Really, the way to learn is not to fear. The way to learn is to communicate. And we're students, we see that job.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much. And I think of course the important point that there are many different types of violence, right? And there could be different types we talk about gang rapes and this and that. So different types of violence will only mean different types of solutions. There are different types of groups. Things that are done in the group. The things that are done in the group versus things that are done by individuals. So we need a bit of nuancing. Right? And what you said as well about like I said, there are a lot of polarizing opinions about whether we should ban this kind of things, right? I think whichever side of the debate stand on, it's important. I think always when you think about it, take something away, right? I think it's always good to think about what you want to replace with. Because if you give a boy that boy like said that they'll go and buy a phone, find a simply way to do this and that kind. But if we try to like replace on that, what are we replacing with? That sort of like drive comes from right? And there must be ways to try and meet that need. And I think the recurring thing is connection and relation, right? If the child still feels disconnected, no amount of anything that's going to make the child feel connected, right? You give them something, they open door and foods, then to talk. Okay, so thank you very much. We'll go to questions. All right, yes, we'll start a little bit with the people who are here and then we'll come to the questions from online as well. Sir?
Hi, question based on, do I need a mic for this?
No,
Is that fine?
your voice is not.
It was something that was shared by the last person that was sharing it. So I have a question. I'm kind of hoping if I'm talking on the spot, I haven't planned out questions, so please forgive and ask me if I need to rephrase. You were mentioning how like it was telling that the idea was to want to see the family as a whole unit, which means that includes the people in the household. Where there are your opinions and your questions and your concerns are raised, and also to listen to their positions. So I understand that now. And then you were mentioning how rather than outright banning of items which identify them to be able to become such, that instead we want to mention how some of the ways that the community can do was to build spaces and times and opportunities for people to get together. So I'm trying to reconcile both, and this is what it comes. And before that, I would like to preface that I don't know whether this phrase was correct, but I heard many times when apparently Henry Ford was asked that if I asked my customers what they want, they just want faster horses. When he was trying to offer them that as a car, such as bicycles. Now, when you mentioned that the community spaces, neighborhood doing all these things, was it coming from adults as well, or was it actually coming from the children themselves saying, you know what, I don't want phones, I really want to come outside and interact with adults. So that's where I was trying to reconcile it.
No, that was Me speaking as a child activist, that was not the child.
So you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but this is the problem, right? We all think we know the answers, right? And this is also me, you just copy. Talking as an adult, but that was not from the child, that was me.
So I was secure, you guys engage in the community. For one thing, we are sometimes forgetting to ask the younger friends who actually are equally capable of studying. Because I think the other lady was mentioning how like some of the things that they had was guilty, they felt injustice. That means on their own, they altruistically already have the capacity to
Feel emotion.
they do want to assist, do want to assist and help. Right? So I'm just wondering, is there a space where we can understand that children, even though they grew up in this digital age, that they also have the capacity to recognize that I do like to experience things which are not. I'm trying to think of how can we ask questions?
That's a very good.
How will we provide spaces for them to recognize themselves? Like, you know what? Although I got this, although I see horses, I think what is the other approach? Like, is there any value in listening? Sorry, not listening, phrase, to look at how my older friends in the community who do things very natural. Is there anything about it that actually also has something from me? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
because otherwise it's going to become a right all the time. Children, what visualization? It's the all, you know, and then we have the old times common phrasing, so old timers would think that doing face to face. So then where is that transition, right? There has to be a space. I'm wondering where children start asking, like, you know what, maybe you might have something that I would like to experience with.
And they want to make those connections, right? That's what we all have in common. What are the commonalities between the adults and the older ones and the younger ones? It's that need for finding meaning and validation and human connection. It's to know that they are loved and they are seen and they are heard, right? So what do you bring together? You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So okay, I'm an English teacher, right? So what captures the imagination and innovation? What is it that I can create and do outside of the thing where I can also get validation, but it's from the community? How do we steer? It's the wrong word. How we, yeah. Well, how do we encourage children to want to do things outside? That's what I'm talking about, vitamin D and stuff. I don't have the answers. I'm not the expert. I know what doesn't work. I know what the impact is. I've seen kids slashed across the face with 24 stitches in New York. I've seen gangs. I have jumped into cars with 15-year-olds with guns. I know all that. I know what doesn't work. And all the recommendations that's coming out right now from the decision makers are not going to work. So I love your idea. For me, I'm speaking to me from my experience. I think what you said is exactly the way we should go. How do we find those bonds, that they'll create those bonds between the children and the adults? And again, be very careful, adults, about what you project and what you think. Again, I gave you my prescription and it was not a child, and what the child really wants. That is really important. That's really easy. No, I don't even know. Sean, that was exactly it. That was so good.
I could add just a little bit on it. Definitely a great connection, right? This is and the very core and the issue with those to put digitalize on. So, but I also was also thinking, while you were talking about, I know a lot of digital overstimulation. I'm young enough to have like played a lot of video games. Those kind of things are you can't match it in real life. Right? You play squash or tennis or whatever. It's not the same. All the flashbang, right? But I realized, like, there are a few things that screens still really cannot give you, right? No matter all the wonderful things, cannot give you a hug. It cannot give you like hold your hand, pick him up. I mean, no matter how much time you spend on your screen, eventually as a living organism, you need to see, these are kind of experiences that maybe we can look into, right? And there are things that the kids still need to do, right? Maybe you find ways to make them a little bit more meaningful, connected experiences, things like that. So it's just about and in this Q&A, again, we're very important. So anyone want to jump in, please jump in anytime. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Anyone else here? Okay, yes.
My name is Grace. Thank you to all the speakers to take the time to share with us. Just some comment and observation. I have two children, 18 and 17. The teenage going to young adult stage phase. I'm very lucky. They are very well behaved, very well disciplined. I keep telling them they should be the role models for their friends. Since some of you are going to be policy makers, I think if you ask ourselves why there are no children here, first is school nights. Their intuition is somewhere online or physical. And third thing, which I think is the most critical thing, what is the root of cause of any of the violence, be it physical, verbal, online? What is the root? We, the adults, you all repeatedly say, talk to your children, quality time, quality time. And you say you're talking to your children, but in less than 5 seconds, do you think they will be listening to you? No, because they are kissing kittens. You only give them less than 5 seconds. Out of the 8 hours when you're away working, you come home, you give them less than 5 seconds. And when you go to a restaurant, what do? Less than 5 seconds, everyone must you. Yeah. So the root of the cause is us. I'm 100% self-confident person. I'm not blaming myself. No, like I said, my children are their role models at school. Thank you, Ikram, for sharing the taekwondo, karate, or
Martial arts.
martial arts. Sports, I think, will solve, if not 100%, 90% of the vitamin D. My children grow up in parks. Free. KLCC Park, Big Gardens, free. A lot of parents here, I think, either you haven't been there or you even haven't heard. So like I said, the root of problem is us. We give them your iPhone, tablet. Why? Why do you buy so many for them? And you say they can buy even more expensive one. Where do they get the money? You should. But no, my son only got his first used handphone when he was 15. I tell you, you have no reason to have a handphone. You know what time I will come to pick you up. I know what time you finish school. Why do you need a handphone to call me? Your teacher, not every teacher wants to have a chat room. I say, mommy is in there. There shouldn't be anything that you cannot remember. Teacher already told you in school. You should remember, not depend on what's up. So I think we parents have to make the first step, not the brilliant child, not the stabber, not the girl. We parents. Like you say, if you step in school, why do you point the teacher? What's wrong with your school? Why don't you ask, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Not teaching my children at home. You versus your children or the school versus 1,000 students? Me, what's wrong with me? Policy maker, please make more time for parents to work 3 days a week or something. Yeah. 2 days, father or mother. Doesn't have to be always the mother. Father, please, you are your role models for the son. Your daughters look up to you. Yeah, if you are a protective father, loving father, your daughters will marry the same kind of man. Yeah, if you are one that doesn't care about your daughters, you just study accountancy is enough. then your daughter will, like she said, if you label them, you're killers. You label them, you are homemaker. Your daughters will end up homemakers. They will end up, kowtow to their husband. I empower my daughter more. You can be anyone you want. You can be anything you want. My daughter. My son is saying, rock it out. My son has another life than my daughter. My son always, everything is a bad. He has to earn his way, he has to work his way. So, like I said, be protective mother or father, especially I think in the mostly Chinese here. Man is still the tua rumah. So your children really look up to you. You are their role model.
Yeah, I think for me, my parents was very busy, so they never really had time. My parents divorced, so they never really got to see them. But one thing I like to pick from what you said was actually when you said your son had to get their work, and I was really, I also started work when I was 14 years old, actually voluntarily earned money myself. But the root cause of that actually is, and all of these things that you want security as a child, because you don't know who you are. The world tells you you are this, you are that, so on and so forth. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I do that when I'm young. When you say sports, it's one outlet. And for me, I did lompat tinggi lah. Luckily, I got like first place, second place. So I know, Akram is actually good at lompat tinggi. So no matter what people on the outside say, oh, you're not good, you're weird lah, whatever it is, I know I'm good at lompat tinggi. When I play games, also. Exactly. And I think a lot of times these kids are really, it's like us, even we as adults are trying to find ourselves. Right? There is literally, I think people talking about this loneliness epidemic out there. Not just kids. Even people at 30 years old are trying to find partners, are very difficult, don't know, like they're still trying to figure out. That's why so many people are quitting their jobs today. Because like, what am I doing this for? I cannot find my sense of belonging anymore. I've been following the whole, like plan, supposedly I work hard, I earn money, supposedly I'm going to be okay. But that's not fulfilling for me anymore. Only my generation at 30 something is trying to figure out, oh, actually, it's not what I want to do. I'm trying to find this. Kids today have to find themselves at the age of like 10, 14. And like you said, this version of success is that how many likes do you have? How many views do you have? Why? Because they see kids at 15 years old, 16 years old having a lot of likes so that they can actually make money now today. They become successful very, very fast. So they can do the things they actually want to do. Why? Because today they can't. If your own kids, for example, say today, actually I want to be an influencer.
Yes.
They're like, as parents, you're like, what kind of money do you get? Think about it back then. I told my parents I want to be a film director. I want to make videos. Today, YouTube is such a big thing. People actually make money out of it. But back then, when I wanted to make it, my parents were completely against it. In fact, they pulled me out of university to go do engineering, which I struggled for 4 years to do because there was the supposedly engineering, accounting, law, so on and so forth, right? But it's not really about profession anyways. It's really about sense of belonging. If your kids tell you that this is what they want to do, are you willing to help them explore? Or do you shut them out? If you shut them out, they're going to feel there's no safe space. They feel they can't trust you, they can't talk to you, they can't share with you. And then they will go to other places to go do that. And if they find the right people, good. But if they find people who are giving them the wrong information, wrong things, then how? So if there's one attitude that I think like something what you said about wanting to explore, it's not even to explore and like open up or even do things outside of screen. I don't think it's screen or off screen. I think it's about, hey, let's explore this together. Right? There are things maybe online, it's offline that both of you can do together. I don't know what you want. I don't know what I like either. Let's explore it together. And I think that's really the approach that it's a whole new world now with AI and everything. Nobody knows. Even in corporate today, if I ask the managers or your staff, tell me something about your boss. Nobody's going to tell me. I work in HR by the way. So I know company issues. Young, adult, same issue. Nobody wants to talk to anybody. The same employee, they want to talk to me about their boss, telling their boss why they don't talk to me because it's political.
I'm afraid if I tell you HR, you're going to tell my boss is going to, skip me for promotion or not give me a bonus. Psychological safety in the workplace also is not good. What about at home? Are we providing that kind of environment where kids, and I think when it comes to kids, you think of them as adults as well. I think kids don't like to be treated as kids.
Only adult conversations with my children. Yeah. Like you say, they're smarter than you think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Another point I want to make before I like over the floor. We forget about the essential of a family tree. It seems like grandparents, auntie, uncles are out of the equation. You say we need a village. I think it's still valid today. Why not let your children get to know their cousin, their auntie, uncles? Yeah. When my children were younger, because actually one of the reasons is we become selfish. You don't invite their children and their friends to your house anymore, right? You want quick fix, you want party outside instead of at home. You don't want a potluck because it's like not gaya, not atas. You want to go to Kidzania or whatever. Also, there's lesser and lesser bonding between you and other children's parents. Lesser bonding between the children. My son doesn't want to go to his friend's birthday. Even at swimming pool, he said, I have to end up following whatever he's doing. But we want to do what we want. Nowadays people hire clowns and all. In children's party, we have to follow the crowd. Why not have something small at home? I used to organize painting at my house with a few kids. At the time watch, they mess up. Never mind. Like I say, go back to our government staff. Include your left and right neighbor, auntie, uncles, cook at home. I cook a lot with my children. They are good cook nowadays. They cook for me now. I just literally shake it, they cook for me now.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm the only person. That's my sister Kristen. Will you introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi, my name is Michelle, and I work at a school. So I just wanted to offer a little bit of a school perspective. So we talk a lot about community and connection, and we really want everybody to think of the school that your children attend as part of the community. Okay, because for me, a lot of the difficulty that we have is actually we have difficulty working with parents. Okay, because and I know you don't always think that this is the case, but at the school, from the school, you always have your child's best interest in mind. Okay, and we're not perfect, okay, for sure, but we are really trying our best. Okay, and for a lot of us, government schools, private schools, international schools, everything, we've all been getting a lot better in the last few decades, right? From the schooling that you remember to the schooling that we have today, things are different, things have changed, right? But we really need parents to work with us. So we have things where we're like, we see this child has been having a lot of difficulty, doesn't socialize very well, has all these things, emotional issues, and we say, we would really think that it would be great for your child to attend counseling. Like, no, my child doesn't have a problem. My child is in counseling. Okay. School is a problem. It's like we are not trying to, we're not saying your child has a problem, nothing like that. Right. But the thing is that we do need you to work with us. Right. And if something happens in school, like parents have a tendency to get very defensive. Okay. And again, we're not trying to say that your child is a problem or there's something wrong with them, but we need everybody to work together. Right. And of course, schools also, we do listen to parents. We also listen to the children. We want to do that. But I really think that, for us to be the great tragedy, of this whole incident is that like really we as a society have failed these children. Okay, have failed to keep the perpetrator safe, have failed to keep the victim safe, have failed everyone. Right. So it is really a multi-pronged approach. Okay, and we do need to work together. We are not your enemy, you're not an enemy also. And also, yeah, I also get defensive, when parents come and talk to me, then we also get because we always feel very attacked as well. Right. But actually we all need to be able to put, those things aside for the greater good.
Thank you for raising all the points. It's like from my personal point of view,
Thank you, Grace, for this. It's like how bringing back all the external family responsibility. That's why we raise the child with a big age. And also Akram points out that how we can explore. And there's one very important point that you all saying is that strength-based. If you look at our society today, we always only look at weaknesses of the child and always look at them and how we want to fix them. It's like we create a frame and then we want to fix their whatever weaknesses and to fit these children into the frame. And a lot of them, especially like those with special needs or certain disability, is so difficult. Sometimes we create what we think, we define the success for them. But our success might not be their definitions. So it's like we give them a default meaning of success and keep on, some kids keep going through different kind of assessments just to find out what their weaknesses are. And then we try to give them different interventions, put them in additional tuition, put them in different additional class to make sure their so-called weaknesses can be improved and fixed into the frame that we set. I think we have to relook at all these measures. We want to see what are their strengths and how the strength can compensate their weaknesses. I think this is more important. This not only can help to build the confidence and also build their identity. Like Akram said, once you find out he is good at combating and that defines him, that is his success, and be encouraged and do that, even though Akram is doing very well in study. But let's say other kids is not doing well academically. He already defined his success. That's his meaning of life. This is how we can help the children that fall through the crack. And from the school perspective, we do believe that teachers want to act the best interest of the child. We always believe that. And like when back then when we want to do creating a nurturing environment to improve the mental health among the adolescents, we come up with 3 modules. One is targeting the teachers, one is targeting the caregivers, another one is for peer support, I support my friends. All 3 modules is easy to target the adolescents, it's easy to target the teachers because you can find them, you can either target them through the teachers training or you can target them at schools, and children are the same. But how do you target caregivers? Are our PTA active enough or not? What is the best platform for us to reach out to all these caregivers, for all these parents? We had a lot of difficulty back then when we want to carry out that. So as a parent, as a parent myself, as I share, I have a lot of challenges facing that, but I have a lot of resources I can train myself. But what about the parents out there? How do we reach them? How do we bring them in to understand our children better? And from another perspective as well, if you look at as we millennials growing up, right? Our parents or our grandparents don't have TVs or telephones. And then they will look at us and say, oh, I don't know how they shouldn't watch so much TV. They should not use so much of the telephone. We used to getting away with your friends on the telephone for hours. I don't know whether you all have that way, right? And also we were writing letters and all that. But our parents and grandparents don't have that. They used to have a lot of face-to-face communication. Are they also sometimes I wonder, were our grandparents or our parents looking at us having the same thoughts as how our young generations, right? They don't know how we live and we don't know how they live. So at the end of the day, what is most important? Let the young people come up with their solution. Let us listen to them, what they want and how to live. And then we guide them, we give them the resources, we support them and work together.
Thank you.
I'm Valerie. Oh, my voice is very loud. Can you hear me? I'm Valerie. I'm so happy. Actually, I was expecting a very big crowd. So I will send out a lot of your information.
but none of them come. I still come with me. I should stay nearby. So it took me about 84 hours to come here. On transport. Okay, so I still never give up. But my heart was, I came for a good reason. And I was expecting the crowd, such a big crowd. But never mind. I believe there will be a second round of this talk. And everybody after the sharing is just awesome. I don't want to miss it. But I really came for a purpose for the next generation. You know, because my heart cry for the next generation. Because I have 7 grown children and I have 7 grandchildren, and the 7 ones on the way. My eldest grandchildren is 29, 25, 20, and 20, 12, and 7. So, as a mother, I've never been to school. I don't know my school. But I went for the school was I think maybe a few months. Every time when the bell rings with the school, I always think, I'm going back to it. You know, the kind of heart in my heart and my spirit. But today, I look at school very differently. And I heard everybody share. And there's no children here. But I want to thank all of you and share the wonderful part of it. And actually, I'm getting very seriously. I'm a Christian, but I'm one person who always believes the man of the house is the most important person that we got to submit. And secondly, very important thing is praying. And because of my background, I'm a widow now. But my children grown up. I don't know, live there, I don't know, do anything. But I know something. I never went to work. My children bonding is very strong. Every of their character, I don't want to guide them or that I don't have the social media. I don't want to share to them. But I always believe in personal touch. I don't care how the world turns upside down. It's a personal touch, it's about heart, love, and also not self-centered. It's always stuck on us. That was my heart. I always tell my children, and when I walk out, anything when I tell my children, I don't have to scold them. I don't have to use them. But when I walk inside the environment, the atmosphere will change. Because they know their mother, don't play this one. And I got a tough time with them, especially when the mother-in-laws are here. You know, so I tell them a very good reason. Darling, I love you so much. Don't actually go whistle here. If I bring up the whistle and I show you like that, very good. The boy, when I show you like this and no whistle, because mother-in-law is very dead, and the mother-in-law don't care whether you can turn anything upside down. She doesn't care, but I care. So when my children now, when I raise my eyes and my slow smile, that's going to go to the toilet, and then your bathtub will be stream and the struggles all around. That's the way I do. And today I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. I don't have the stress on my children. But now, because my eldest daughter is 50 years old, so 50 and the youngest 31 is the most toughest one. But I'm very relaxed and very because as a mother, I show them my authority. When I exercise the power of silence, people the mother doesn't talk because in the house I'm the most louder. Sorry, I don't use the mic. Because I'm the very loudest, and my children know when I raise my voice, I know. I feel quiet. So lately, my daughter asked me, because we know they have to pay for first time they have to pay my rental, pay for my allowance. So she asked me 2 questions. Okay, I have 5 daughters, 2 boys. And the 5 daughters, the third one is the very toughest, she's professor, very smart. I don't care how smart you are. I don't need the kind of brain. But she teaches me a lot of things. But I was very cool. Mother, why you don't say things? Oh, you know, when mommy don't say things, something wrong somewhere. Better keep quiet. Exercise the power of silence. That's how I protect my children. You know, so I only take one today, and tomorrow they're driving back. because of my surgery, sorry, I have to be like that. Because of my surgery, so I was very taken care well by the children and the grandchildren, they are nurse, and they are so doctor and nurse, now everybody will be the doctor and doctor, and 7 of them. And I was very grateful to God because of my prayer for them. Oh, yeah, my prayer, mother's prayer so powerful. I pray for them every night. Every night, and I just see my children now, my grandchildren now, and even the extended family, very like peaceful, when they come to me. Because I don't talk so much, when talk so much, and someone, I do not speak Chinese language, So I got a serious problem. Now, of course, I can speak it, and 100 also I don't speak. I don't know how to speak. Most of them understand me because I don't go to school. I have an awesome teacher. I got wonderful people teach me how to speak English, and I know to read. I know to speak, but written is a bit what? By this method. See, so I can understand God. My prayers are, I can see to today, way past my saddest misery. I see my children, all of them are very good to me. Not only got that, it's also the vitamin M now. Okay? God bless you. Thank you. I'm so happy I come, but all my friends didn't bring in. I'm like, they didn't like. Now I will take a photo with you. I will show you. You didn't know what you missed. Oh. It's so important.
Yes. Comment about schools that you remember to also rapidly, which is if there was in the school in which we went to private schools also. And then they monkey see, monkey do, it's very much true, right? So our time we spend on the phones and on the kids. Shouldn't be something short.
Something that will be very inspiring for the friends in the hall is that we know every country is not perfect, but a certain thing which the Nordic countries actually do something quite good. When I say Nordic, I'm referring to Finland, Denmark, so and so forth. Now, what's very interesting about them is when they did a little survey, they asked the students, not the teachers, not the schools, they asked the students the survey of students who are happiest in school or from the Nordic regions.
Yeah.
Number one, on the side of these Nordic regions are also known for the highest GDP of the country, meaning that the Nordic region, the workforce generating a lot of revenue for the country. So, what is those to do? And another interesting thing which we tie into some of the spiritual, I suppose, the panel discussion that we have. The Nordic countries also have the highest number of parents who are part-time workers. That's one of the highest. The number of hours that they do at work is the lowest among the Asian countries. Why? Those time goes back to the house. They spend more time with their children as professional workers compared to many countries in the world. If you look at that, happiest place in school, still operating in a high economy, or within that, in this case, the relationship of parents and child, when it's supported on a social level, in terms of transformation, which is why I say policymakers are also important. Companies are going to sense hundreds of individuals, and you have the two transformation to not imagine where we have a country, at least for us, where we're able to have time that we know we can go back to really sit down with our children. And you look at these countries, like they are doing very well. No one's saying that less time means less money. They are doing it very well. And the children themselves are enjoying it. Yes, that's true. Like very creative to read in terms of whether it's looking at school, whether it's looking at children. What happens with parents? Like they went a lot of time back from the workforce. When you see this country is blessed with us.
And support the 3-day working. What is the related to that? I also want to break into some of the comments and there's a comment, because we did not have it. Okay. Thanks for companionship. And anyone that talks or listens to the child, but what is key to come up with this together, the child plays a role in using what's probably then also same. I just put them all together and performing. As said, completely agree with restricting access to hunting and combat knives to minors. How can we pressure the government to make this happen? Right, I think Gillian Chong's question suggested it about how we can actually support that because under privilege from humans to respond to parents. And there was one question in the beginning, how can we empower kids and young adults who are experiencing all these emotions, especially regarding mental wellness? It's quite a few, so if there are any more, just feel free to let us know, but some comments, anybody?
I think the address the issue on the knives and buying already, so that's already answered. So I guess it's the other three. I think we've answered that.
So actually, buying Lazada or Shopee, the children can use parents' account to buy.
Yeah, that's why we need to figure out a verification process.
So back in school, I do have friends who bring anti-knives class as well. I was like back in 2006. But it's easily available. The reason is because it's also camping types. So you can go to Challenger or the Gillian as well. So more so, of course, everybody not just online. Offline also, we have to check the thing for the dealer before you buy.
But can I tell you something? Because I used to work at yoga, and like I said, I worked a lot with the kids and gangs and stuff. I'm sorry, but kids know how to turn pencils into knives. And use rulers and turn them into knives. So really, anything you have, you can turn into a weapon. It isn't really about the knives. It's about the attitude and the mindset on how do we reduce the stress and emotions of it. How are we able to help children that they deal with their emotions so they don't go out of control, so they know how to channel all their energy to something. Because really, I've had kids throw chairs over my heads. I mean, and it's not really about the knives.
One good thing is school council. I from SMK Bandar Utama and Yusof. Okay. Yes, there's one teacher that I'm from Port Catherine. I think she was a very amazing counselor. Because she made going to the counseling room a fun thing. It's like where people like to hang out. So people who don't feel like they belong, they have issues, they will come and hang out there. And she won't say, hey, go to class, you late for class. No, I mean, now I'm much older, I can say I used to also skip some classes as well. But I go to the counseling room and I was able to talk to my counselor. I was able to talk to the people there. And that's when all the misfits had a sit. And that was a safe space. And that safe space really felt good because we could be some of it. I don't know if schools today still have that. I hope they do. I'm sure they do. But maybe in terms of capacity, maybe they're lacking because there's probably a lot of children who or kids who need to have that kind of support. There's only so much space for that to happen. So of course we need to help teachers in a way of taking those burdens out. Then parents also to keep them center. The kids can come to and talk to. They thought I think within schools they should spend have more counselors then do the same thing, provide a safe space. And safe space meaning no judgment. Meeting is no judgment. Why social media is toxic? So much judgment happening there. Everybody is judging. What you do, what you wear, what you say, everything, so much judgment. A safe space means no matter what I say, no matter what I do, there is no judgment on my actions of who I am as a person.
Thank you so much. Okay, it's almost 10:15. This is a super pressing opinion. I think we will close it. So thank you so very much. Not just the panel, but everyone who came, who shared. Those of you who joined us on time, we really appreciate it. It's an ongoing journey. It's long, it's involved, it's not easy, but ultimately it's a worthwhile journey. Appreciate you talking with us. For those of you who might not get in touch, we can use the link for follow our emails and looking up our phone numbers. Just feel free, or just come up to the chat.
Can I have one more point? So I think all of us who come here means a lot to us. And this topic means a lot to us. And I'm glad to say I've already taken one step further. I contacted my children's school and to organize a talk for parents.
Wonderful.
From PIPG. So to me, we need to train the trainers. We are the trainers.
Yeah.
We need to be trained. Like you said, there's a manual to become parents. Even though my children are well grounded, but I told them when you go college, you might get stuck, not just in secondary school. So you continue to be a good influence. Continue to talk to your friends. You say, "Mommy, don't talk about it anymore." So you're not making fun of the devil or the victim. I'm telling you how you can talk to your friends to continue to influence your friends. I'm not talking to mummies to say, "Oh, how bad is the child?" No, how we can become good trainers. Yeah, like you say, I'm not professionally trained, so I need to be trained, continue to be trained. Yeah, so like you say, there's first step or next step that you do in wherever you're from, whether you are working in a big corporation, organize, invite the panels, come to talk in your really influence, even one person, even one parent, I think will change.
It's so you can save time. So I think this is a really wonderful initiative, and hopefully we can have a multiplier effect, organize this in school, right? Reach out as many people to participate in the message. But it's really wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so again, thank you so very much. I just like to say a few thank yous. Thank you to all our panelists, of course. We have a few volunteers, Aisha, Jessie, Christina, so we also have a lot of problems. We did this very fast, very quickly, so very appreciative of that. Of course, our host and actor, we very welcome you and okay, I think we get in touch. We want to help organize things at school and all that. Thanks so very much. Everyone. Have a great night. Stay safe and hug the kids. Thanks very much.
Sorry.
I just loved it.